So when I heard that there was going to be a Mulan live action movie, I immediately seized up. Mainly because we all know how these live action Disney movies play out. They're mostly on a scale of meh to terrible. A lot of us wonder why they can't just make new movies, invest in new ideas and creators, and stop ripping their animated classics a new one because they, for some reason, don't think they can stand on their own. Of course, we also know they're just doing this to make money because it's seemingly a safe bet, as people already love the old properties, and there are even some people out there who don't like animation, and therefore these live actions reach a whole new audience. However, after watching Mulan 2020, I actually thought it was fine and actually good in some aspects, and in the end, I'm happy that it exists. I think it's a great win for Chinese American representation and has given a lot of big name as well as up and coming Chinese American actors a chance to be in a high budget Hollywood movie. The budget for the movie was $200 million, and though they didn't make nearly that much back in box office sales, it did prove that people are willing to pay for streaming services and pay extra to stream movies in their own home. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Cheyenne and I'm an Asian American adoptee and expat living in Brazil. I make pop culture commentary and review videos and post them here every Tuesday, so if you're into that, please subscribe and ring the bell. Instead of going into a plot rundown, I'm just going to start with the commentary. You know Disney's Mulan from 1998, and that's all you really need to know to understand the live action version. So I'm going to break this video down into two parts, changes from the original that I liked, and changes that I didn't. Also, before we start, I'm not going to talk about the cultural or historical accuracies or inaccuracies. I'm not a scholar on Chinese history, the Ballad of Mulan, nor all of the ethnic groups in China and their customs or dress, so I'm not even going to go there. Also, I know that this is Disney, and though this movie was made with Chinese audiences in mind, they still hired a majority white cast for behind the scenes, so there's that. Which honestly does hurt the representation argument, but the performances were great, and the fact that they actually cast Chinese and Chinese Americans rather than white people and Asian Americans in general was still good. Mulan is also a fable and a legend, so I'm okay with letting things like costume inaccuracy or period furniture slide, or even like physical impossibilities fall by the wayside. I mean, there's magic in this movie. And I think letting those things slide to make the movie more fun and more magical is fine. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here are the changes that I actually really liked. So number one, I liked how they extended Mulan's backstory. I liked that they showed what she was like when she was a kid, and I also loved the child actors they got to play her and her sister. It reminded me so much of me and my sister growing up. Like, how many Chinese sisters do you see in Hollywood movies? Like, almost none. So it was cool to see that, and it demonstrates how powerful images can be. I also didn't mind that Mulan is good at boy stuff as a kid and young woman before she enlists in the army. Even though she seems confident in her abilities in her small village, we see that she actually needs to refine her training quite a bit and isn't the best soldier in the camp right off the bat. In fact, she needs to work as hard as all the other men until she's able to do the thing. Though she's gifted with chi, which I guess is life force or force of a warrior, it doesn't mean she's in perfect control of it. When she gets into the standoff on her first day at camp, she only takes out her sword to prove that she's just as good as the guys, but deep down we know that she's actually really insecure about presenting as masculine and being found out. We see her hiding from the other men, waking up earlier, not showering, etc. It's not until she reveals who she truly is that she's able to gain full control of her abilities and become the confident person she is deep down inside. This echoes the original Mulan really well, and it doesn't turn into a message about girl power or being a girl boss, but rather represents her inner struggle of needing to choose between repressing her interests and skills in the name of social pressure or living life as she truly is. I also thought Liu Yifei's performance was really good. Her facial expressions are subtle but purposeful. I like how Mulan is allowed to cry, laugh, make jokes, be scared, be mean, etc. I think she's a well-rounded character. She also doesn't have a disdain for girly stuff or thinks that getting married is lame, but rather it's just not for her. I also like how they glammed Liu down because I honestly couldn't recognize her. They made her complexion a lot ruddier and darker to look more country and down to earth. Though it did seem as though after she came out as Mulan, they lightened her skin or at least let her present with her more natural whiter skin to look more feminine, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. I also thought it was weird that they even curled her hair when she came out as Mulan, like it's in perfect waves down her back. And at first I was going to ignore this because when you have your hair up for a long time, it does kind of just create natural waves, but these are like perfectly coiffed curls. She also wears makeup when she becomes Mulan or comes out as Mulan, which I didn't mind, but it was kind of distracting and annoying how they felt as though they needed to do all these things to make her look more feminine when they could have just let her be. But I guess it does kind of prove that gender is really just a performance. But overall, those are just minor points. I really like Mulan's character changes and also her new outfit. I like that they went in a totally new direction with the costumes rather than trying to recreate the old ones. Mulan 2020 is just so different from Mulan 1998 that you can just watch it as its own movie and enjoy it for what it is, even though you do kind of constantly like compare them while you're watching them. I think maybe in like 60 years people will go back to this movie and watch it just as a standalone film for the sole purpose because they like Mulan's character a lot better in this movie than in the original. I also really like how she doesn't end up with a man in the end. Like, she doesn't kiss Shang, or I guess Ling, in this one, and I thought that was really refreshing. I don't know if they kiss in the original either. Like, I don't think they do, but correct me if I'm wrong. I also like how the love interest, Ling, is just a fellow soldier and not her superior because it doesn't create any weird power dynamic, and because they can relate to each other more just as fellow soldiers. I also still think that this movie holds up the idea that Mulan's love interest is bisexual or bicurious because he does seem to be attracted to Mulan even when she's in a disguise. So number 2, I liked the general's character. Commander Tung isn't Shang, but I think him being a totally new and different character makes a lot more sense. Mainly because he becomes a pseudo-father figure to Mulan and lets her explore her more masculine interests. He also doesn't want to murder her after she comes out as Mulan for taking her father's place in the military. He also forgives her a lot easier and is more gentle with her. And I'm also really glad they got rid of that annoying scribe character. I mean, he's funny in the original, but he would just be totally out of place in this movie, and I'm glad they got rid of his character or at least minimized it. So number 3, the budget for this movie was $200 million and it shows. The sets of this movie are beautiful and memorable. I love the look of the Imperial City, the palace, the camp, Mulan's journey to the camp, and of course her first showdown with the witch. I also really like the costumes and how bright the film is. The martial arts effects are also cool, and though the CGI looks bad at times, it is made up for with all the practical effects. So now for the changes that I didn't like. So number 1, why is Mulan's father narrating this film? Tim Ma, who is a Hong Kong American legend, has been in so many movies and is extremely talented, but I don't know why he's narrating this film. Why isn't Mulan narrating her own journey? The movie starts off with him talking about Mulan and stating why she's our main character, and I get it because he loves her and they have a close bond, but I think it would have been cooler to have Mulan narrating and talking about her own life. So number 2, boring speeches by boring men. Though I like Commander Tung, he gives a lot of speeches that are extremely repetitive about being true to yourself, and he also gives a lot of unnecessary exposition. Lines he said that I wrote down were, "We're moving out today even though we're not ready," and "Attack the leader." And it's like, we know, we've seen the first one. We know what the premise is, we know what Mulan is going to do, you don't need to be telling us this. He's basically giving out the plot of the whole movie, and it's like, again, we've seen the first one. He says, "We're moving out even though we're not ready." Okay. Even though those lines are bad, though, they did make me laugh. So, number 3. What is Chi? They set up Chi a lot in the beginning of the movie when Mulan is a kid because apparently she has too much of it or she needs to repress it because it's only for warriors, aka men. And girls aren't allowed to use Chi or should abandon it when they get older in favor of marriage, which is how women are supposed to bring honor to themselves and their family. But Chi is also set up to have magical properties, and some women have Chi, but it's a bad thing because it can also be used for evil. And this is seen with the witch character, who, don't worry, we're getting to, so I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Either way, Chi is abandoned later in the movie, but I'm still curious if women have chi, or only some women have chi, or only men have chi? Like, how does this work? And I ask this because I highly doubt that Mulan and the witch are the only women in the whole history of this movie that have ever had chi or used it for good or for evil. I originally thought that after Mulan comes out as herself to the commander that they were going to abandon her or try to kill her because they would think that she was a witch because of chi, but it never comes up. Like, why even bring it up at all? Why even have chi in the movie? Why can't the witch and Mulan just be strong without it? In the end, it seems totally pointless, which is why it's on the list of things that I didn't like. So, number 4. The Witch. So the witch is Mulan's foil in the film. She's a strong, independent woman in possession of chi, but uses it for evil because she doesn't think that she has a place in their contemporary patriarchal society. However, she's not completely free of men ruling over her, as Borikhan controls her as he found her as a baby and is the only one to ever truly embrace her. But of course, he only embraces her to use her powers for himself. He promises the witch that after they kill the emperor and put him on the throne, that she will be able to be free and not be judged or persecuted for her chi or magic powers. And it's like, what a convoluted evil plan. Also, for a badass woman with powers, she seems to be pretty easily manipulated. If she's so powerful, why isn't she the emperor or empress or the leader of, like, this army? Like, when I first saw the trailer, I thought that she was going to be the main villain because she's the one with the powers, but no, she has to play second hand to a powerless human. In her confrontations with Mulan, she says that no one will ever respect her after she tells them that she's a woman, but that hiding her identity also weakens her powers, much like Magneto and Mystique from X-Men. Mulan comes out anyway, and the men embrace her, proving to the witch that women like them can exist and be celebrated, and even leaders. Thus, the witch turns on Borikhan, but then he kills her. The end. Like, what a thankless role and story thread that went absolutely nowhere. Like, it's kind of a depressing message. In my opinion, the witch should have lived and been redeemed. Hashtag let the witch live. But though the witch is a clumsily written character, I do think that she's a good foil for Mulan, and does represent a real argument that happens in a lot of feminist circles, especially in the workplace. Like, if I can't beat them, might as well join them, and how that usually backfires. Mulan realizes that people will embrace her for who she is, and that's good, though of course not very realistic. It also tells people to stay true to who they are rather than hiding or pretending to be someone they're not. Though this isn't the best advice, if you are going to be killed for who you are, like, that is why she is hiding who she is in the first place. I also find it really unfair that the attitude that needs to change in Mulan is hers, the victims, rather than the patriarchal system as a whole, which is making her repress her true self to begin with. Though by the end of the movie she is rewarded by the emperor and he makes exceptions for her and people applaud her, she doesn't really bring up anyone with her, and the emperor doesn't also declare, like, gender equality across the whole nation. It's just for this one exceptional woman. But either way, Mulan is willing to sacrifice her own life for that of her father's, which is pretty big. But also, the movie kind of plays into military propaganda because she's only applauded for being a woman because she's also helping out with the military machine. Overall, it's tough, but I do want to cut the writers some slack because it is really hard to write a villain for Mulan. Mulan, at its core, is a liar-revealed story, so the villain, or the logical villain, would be someone who's trying to reveal her secret, which is tedious if not done well. I think a better villain for the remake could have been a sympathetic army leader who wants help from the Chinese government and maybe is being treated badly by some policy or another, but that would mean not solving the conflict with violence or displays of masculinity, but with words, and that doesn't really move money, nor stick to the woman warrior story that Mulan is. So in the end, they created the witch character and the Shan Yu equivalent in Borikhan, and at best it turned out meh, and at worst it turned out to be a very problematic message about being who you are no matter what, even though you could die. But in the end, I do understand why the witch was brought in or thought to be a logical villain for Mulan, because she does get at Mulan's insecurities and has something to do with Mulan rather than just being a faceless military leader who has no motive. I also liked how they added in the witch because that added in another female character, more evil female villains. So number 5, the Emperor. So the Emperor in the movie is portrayed by Jet Li, and though he's a great actor, he was not directed well in this film. In fact, he doesn't even come off like as a kind, benevolent leader, but rather kind of bloodthirsty and evil. Like, I thought he was going to be a twist villain. Like, in the movie, his main goal is to murder Boricon because he killed his father, and now he wants to kill his son. The Emperor is just pretty violent, and it's kind of scary. Like, the original Emperor in the original Mulan movie is kind, wise, calm, but this one is like the complete opposite. Like, they went in a totally different direction, and I don't know why. So number 6, and the last change that I didn't like, was that there was no full circle moment in the climax. One of the things that I really like about the original Mulan is that there are a lot of full circle moments. Her using the fan from the beginning, the men dressing in drag after Mulan was disguised as a man, and of course using the impossible task again in the climax to help them get to the Emperor. There's a lot of recurring jokes, gags, and learning moments that the characters go through to help them become better soldiers and people. But this movie has none of those. Like, the impossible task that they need to do in the remake never comes back to help Mulan or anyone else in the finale/climax. She also doesn't fight side by side with Ling or the other, soldiers that she's made friends with. It's just her alone with the Emperor, who she just met. Her friends are holding back the villain's goons, but one of the biggest reveals in the original is that A, Shang is willing to almost die to protect Mulan, and B, that Mulan reveals herself as the man on the mountain. This never happens in the remake. The villain is never surprised that Mulan is a woman or was the male soldier who defeated him, mainly because the witch was the one she had a connection with, and the witch knew who Mulan was all along. Also, why would Boricon be surprised that Mulan is a woman to begin with after he knew the witch for so long? The climax was cool, but overall disappointing. There's no one watching the fight, which added suspense in the first one. There's no payoff of the mountain task showing that it was actually useful for something, and we don't get Ling and Mulan fighting side by side. It was meh, and really made me appreciate the original, honestly. So here are 2 things that I felt indifferent to. 1, the Phoenix. So instead of Mushu, we have the Phoenix, which is Mulan's family's spirit protector, and overall, I thought it was fine. I thought it was animated well, but it's not really in the movie that much for me to feel any type of way about it. And number 2, the fact that it's not a musical. I was honestly so glad that this wasn't a musical, because I think Disney's finally learning that with the live actions, they really need to do these musical numbers well, otherwise they just will not live up to the original ones that were done in animation that are just amazing and will live in our hearts forever. Aladdin's musical numbers were flat and I didn't like them, and I also didn't like the Beauty and the Beast remake's musical numbers, and the Lion King's were fine, but they didn't go all the way with Be Prepared, and it showed. All I can hope for is that they do better with The Little Mermaid, but as for Mulan, I'm glad they did not include the songs because I don't think it would have been executed well enough, and I think probably people would just be more angry at the movie, so in the end I thought it was a good choice. And also this movie is way more of like a military drama than like a musical comedy, so it wouldn't really make sense having the songs in there anyway. What I did get annoyed by was that Christina Aguilera ended up covering Reflection for this movie. Like, were there no Asian American or Chinese singers that could cover this song? Like, was Lea Salonga busy? I don't know, and I don't get it, and it makes me angry. And yeah, I know Christina Aguilera sung the single version that was played on the radio, but Lea Salonga sung the song in the original movie. So yeah. So here are my final thoughts. Overall, I liked it. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good either. I think to enjoy it, you need to watch it as a standalone film rather than a live-action Disney remake. And if you do that, I think that the movie does stand well enough on its own. And I know it's hard not to compare it to the original one because I did that a lot too, but I think it is really worth watching the movie and appreciating it on its own merits. The cast is giving it all they got, the sets are really memorable and well done, and so are the special effects, and Mulan's character changes, I think, were really welcomed. However, I do have to agree that the message of the 2021 is rather confusing, be yourself no matter what, or be yourself, otherwise you're gonna hold yourself back, like, doesn't really make sense, especially with all of the injustices in the world. Like, the original message that people will love you no matter who you are, and, you know, you've had it in you all along, and you are worthy, is a lot better of a message than, like, the 2021, even though they do seem very similar, like, they are different. And I think that the people who were behind this remake just didn't get how different they were, because the messages do seem so similar. But anyway, I do not like that part of the remake, but I think it's worth watching at least once to form your own opinion if you are curious about it. And if you just want to see a movie with an all Chinese cast, I think that is cool. So yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. And if you liked it, please give it a like, leave a comment, share it with someone, and of course subscribe to be notified every time I post a new video. My next video, which is going to come out next Tuesday, is going to be about 5 centimeters per second and why it's my favorite movie of all time. So if you want to see that one, please again subscribe and ring the bell, and thank you so much to my subscribers and my patrons. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.